Speaking of line tool, um, this is another one of those tricks that I did not know initially, and I was just like, wait, what? So the line tool, because I kept going, okay, great, grab the line tool, come in here. Wow, that's a giant line. Hold on. Hold on my command key. No, okay. Make you a little bit smaller, sir. So that's still kind of large. But I would normally be dragging that and then going to contour and then doing all that. However, that's the long way. Short way would be click and drag your line out, still holding your mouse down, hold down Command, and then you can curve it. So again, I'll pull this line out here. I'm still holding down the mouse. Once I get it to where I want it, hold on Command, and it's almost as if I have my contour editor with it. Up top here, let's drag you down. Now, I know my line's not exactly the same thickness, but contour, excuse me, not contour. Holding down my Command key, let go. And this one is kind of cool. I think I can get away with this. Let's find out. Matter of fact, let me make a thinner line here for a second. Hold on my O. Okay, so if I pull this there, hold on Command, that's pretty close. I mean, I could probably add another point, but that's not terribly bad. Okay. Now, some of these I could probably come in here later and just add like another point and clean that up, but I'm going to purposely overshoot this. And of course, we still have our little points we can mess with. I can even clean up my little lines there. And here we are again with the pen and or polyline tool. And this again, this is located under your rectangle tool, so right down at the bottom, which I can either do my little cheat of just clicking point to point and then coming back in with the contour editor, cleaning it up. And let's click off of here, Command and click. And let's go to contour and clean up all of my points. Or treat it exactly like the pen tool. Click and pull out a point. While I'm still holding down my mouse, I'm going to hold down Option, pull that point in so I can change directions. Click and pull here. Hold down Option, pull this little handle in. So yeah, the only thing I'm doing is just kind of clicking and pulling. But if I want to change direction suddenly, I'm going to hold down Option, pull this handle in, and then I can just go straight. There. Okay. Curve, Option again, just pull that handle in. There. I quit that. Let me see if I can try to do that while we're here. Oh. Oh, wow. That did not know that was possible. That's kind of weird. So hold on O, make it smaller. Hold down O. I'm clicking and dragging But yeah, which I'm curious. Thanks. And so hair is already drawn. If I click on that one little stroke there, can I, let's see, won't let me do that, but what will it let me do? Pencil editor. Can you let me change it here? Yes, you can. I was trying to see if it would act normal. Because I know with regular pencil, if I grab, because that'll grab everything, I can come in here. There we go. Like each line, this is with my regular selection here. I can change out stuff after it. Of course, with the pencil editor, I can do really nice thick and thins with that. But if I'm just trying to do it in one solid thing, I can too as well. So a couple of things with paint and the dropper tools. I want to talk about not only the tools, but the window. I'm going to come over here to my color. The color window here, you have two different things. You can see colors. There's also a little thing that says palettes. And the palettes here are pretty important because if you look, there's a whole lot of different palettes. And I can come down to DT Toucan. DT standing for drawing tools, the name of this file. And they've gone in and labeled out the toucan very carefully. So if you've ever been working in Photoshop or taught Photoshop and trying to get students to understand naming layers, naming colors inside of Toon Boom is just as important. Instead of just saying, oh, this is an eye, this is the eye color, or this is the pants color. Really? Whose pants? So think of it like if you're doing, let's say, SpongeBob, we can have a palette for SpongeBob. We have a palette for Patrick. We have all these different palettes and then naming them out. So even if all of the characters had the exact same color shoe, you would want to break those up so they have their own individual properties here. And these things are dynamic. So for instance, if I'm going to click on the body here, and if you notice the F is for fill. So the one thing I can do, let's grab my paint tool. I can just click here or click right down at the bottom. And if I decide, or someone says, yeah, we just heard back from the client, we gotta change it. Can you make it a little more blue? Yeah, maybe. Double click on the color. And this updates on the fly. So whether you have one frame or 1,000 frames, imagine being able to change out your colors that easily. All right, and hopefully I can undo that. Yes, Command Z. So that's one thing. The other thing that I didn't realize initially about the paint tool, because I'm still thinking like most tools and think, where's dude's beak? I was thinking, cool, I'm gonna come in here and just click to find certain areas. But one, what areas are those? Press the letter K and you can see all of the outlines. So there are invisible stroked outlines here that you can work with. So I can click here, but I also want to share with you something called Paint Unpainted. So you've got your paint tool here. Now you can find Paint Unpainted either on your toolbar or you can come over to your properties and take it to Paint Unpainted. What that basically means is we've got these black outlines, but I can set this up where instead of me clicking in here, I can just, well, one, let me get the right color. Where's Mr. Tree? Tree branch, great. Instead of just clicking in there, I can do the following. Click and drag. Now, if you're thinking, well, what's the big deal with that? Here's a big deal. I'm going to switch to leaves, and I can do this. darn it, I touched the tail, my bad. Okay, there we go. That's better. Dude, where are your feet? Beak and paws, cool. I can go there, that's great. And the tail is that weird blue. So I can just grab those. Okay. Now the rest of these, it's probably not that free. Beak is definitely there, but it's also telling me which color beak there is. Beak 3, sure. La, 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 la. And I think you're back to normal-ish. Oh, wow, I didn't color both of those. Bad, Tony. So yeah, you can just click in normal, or you can do a little click and drag. Now the click and drag is working because I've done the paint unpainted. All right. So yeah, there are the highlights. Highlights? What's a highlight? Oh yeah, that's a highlight. Thank you. But those are the things with the working with the paint tools or color tools there. And you want to make sure, like I said, we can press the letter K, turn it off. Let me think, what did I miss? There's the heart. Yay. Cool. Which, by the way, give me 1 second. I don't think they talked about that. Oh yeah, they do. Okay, cool. Because how those lines even get there, if I press the letter K, is something called the stroke tool, which we'll come up with later, but it's under the paint area, and it allows us to draw little invisible lines. So if I draw a line there, I can give him another little color in his coat. There. So like I think in one of these, when we take a look at the shark, we'll be using that to draw out where our shade line would be. But if you try to use that tool, let me see if I can show you this. If I try to use that tool without K being on, it's going to say, hey, you've added a stroke to the drawing, but it will not be visible unless you activate show strokes from the view menu. But that's what that's talking about, it's simply pressing the letter K. These little strokes, though, are still selectable. You can delete them, bid them, do all the little things you would normally do. Anytime you press K, you've got all, you can actually see all of your points. It's not just the invisible ones, and you can still manipulate them. This one is kind of cool, and I remember the first time I saw this, I was like, well, what's the difference? But if you look, instead of having these little black strokes here, they're having self-colored lines. This is also a really good exercise in how, matter of fact, I think we're on break time. So we'll talk about this when we get back, but the palette we're using is the drawing tool is the crocodile. If you look, it's got CR for crocodile, L, that means the line for the plates, but there's also the F, fill, for the plates. So if you look, all of these are kind of in an interesting little order here. And it's talking about using the actual ink. And the way ink works, I'm not even touching anything, but if it it'll highlight just the strokes of everything. Again, if you keep seeing me dart and zip around, it's just, I have a scroll wheel on my mouse, and the way Harmony works, wherever I have my cursor and I decide to scroll in, it's going to focus right into that area, which comes in handy. So between that and hitting my space bar, kind of moving things where I want it to be. But the ink tool is, I can go over here with the crocodile line for the plates, and kind of like I was doing earlier with the paint bucket, I can click and drag, and it's not doing a fill because this is just for the strokes of that. Okay. And let's see, where's the line for the skin? It's right here. So this one, I'm gonna be a little more careful, because if I'm not careful, I'll end up hitting the scales there, like I just did. It's Command Z. And sometimes there's a little gap there. Yeah, quit that. Quit it. Quit. Okay, I guess that one's not that visible. What about this one? There we go. So I'm just kind of going through and finding where those are. Now, speaking of strokes, this is the stroke tool. This is going back what we were talking about earlier. And if you look on the right-hand side, our little shark has these little strokes going on. So this is me pressing the letter K. So if I'm going to do that first one, I can just draw that little shade there and draw a shade on his eyebrow. Draw a little shade or a curved shade on his eye there. Maybe draw that a little different. And then just on his skin, the shirt, come down a little bit. But yeah, so this way, it's kind of like you're going in here, and let me go to my shark land. Let's mix this up. Okay, there we are. Shark skin shade, like fill is for the F, skin, and SH is for the shade. So use my paint tool, I'll click in there and there. Eye white shade, that would go there. And shirt collar shade, there. So if we click off of this, that's like the little bit of shading we've done. There's also highlights, the little HL here. So if I did turn my K back on for the highlight for the skin, let's try that one more time. That's a giant highlight. Okay, there we go. Where did that skin highlight go? Now, by the way, I'm on the stroke tool right now. If I hold down my eye tool and get the paint tool temporarily, click there, there we go. Let me see if I can do this. What I'm looking at, I've got my stroke tool. Let's see, what is this doing? Connect inlines. This is what I have mine selected on. Like, because even if I stop, let's see if I can stop short of that, it'll go ahead and finish the end. Like, this is me dragging, and I'm going to stop about here. Of course, I'm doing it now. I don't want to do it. Stop here. Thank you. And then it'll connect. So it's like going, okay, dude, we'll go ahead and finish off that line for you. But yeah, it's kind of, what's the word? I'm a little bit spoiled with the other tools. So I think what I've done in the past is just, I built out a pencil as well as like one of the pencil tools, and just set it to no line because I can have a little more control over it. But yeah, that's making sure that little option is there. I think it's there by default. I can't remember. But yeah, you can come in and start doing some nice little highlights. And I like the stroke tool, honestly, because when I'm drawing, let's see, my favorite thing is probably to do, let me grab my color here for a second, and a decent brush. My favorite thing to do is like drawing out little shapes and characters. Like if I draw the, stop it. If I draw that, I use the stroke tool to, seriously, not you, stroke tool. I use the stroke tool to do things like come in here and make a nice invisible line so I can fill in the character that way, you know, well, preferably with that little gap there. But I like that old kind of Saturday morning or Sunday morning comic strip, kind of open line, free looking ink type thing. Letting you know your students were like, well, I've been drawing this and nothing ever shows up. Something you might want to check with them is going to their screen and pressing the letter K just to see how many invisible lines are on the screen. And just go ahead and getting rid of those. All right. The close gap tool, I mean, it has its purpose. I'm not really a fan, but the close gap tool it kind of works like the stroke, except for it's going to find the nearest way to close things off. Okay? So if we press the K key here, one, yes, it's got these nice little Argyle things, but if you look, this is kind of that work that I like, where there's those little invisible lines here. But what the closed gap will do is it doesn't care about finesse or anything like that. It's going to take the shortest distance possible and just do a straight line connecting the little open spots there. Select where the head is. So I'm just kind of drawing a line. Doesn't worry if I kind of do like angle this or something like that. Like I could even try to do this. It's like, that's what it's going to do. It's like, there we go. That's a little better. But yeah, it just does what it thinks is the closest point to close everything off. Now, do I have to get that generic and close everything? No, because I can always use my paint tool and tell it to fill in my gaps. Let me go to the paint tool and tell this, can you close my medium gaps? By the way, tool properties, paint tool, paint, close medium gaps, cool. There we go. So you do have the options if you've ever done any kind of paint work in, let's say, Adobe Animate or Adobe Flash, you do have the little close gap option that's popped up there. But for the gaps that are extra large, that's when you're using the little close gap tool. Now, see if I can show you exactly why I don't like the close gap tool. I'm going to purposely try to make a straight line across here and just go as straight as possible. Okay, so it's going, nah, it's going to mess that up a little bit. So I'm not really a fan. This next one is the Edit Gradient and Texture tool. And the cool part about this is there's several things going on. One, there is a linear gradient in the background. There's a radial gradient on the bird. And last but not least, there's an actual texture on the box that the bird's standing on. And all three of them are handled by Gradient Texture tool. And this is located under the contour editor. If you notice, it's a whole family of things that kind of work like the contour editor, and the Gradient tool is one of those. So I'm going to start with the background. If I click on this, you'll note that there's a line here. This is kind of similar if you work with Illustrator. This line for the center, I can move where the gradient's going to be. I can shorten and stretch that out with the great little square there. And last but not least, circle in the end, I can rotate this. And on the bird, if I click on the bird, this, you can see there, well, technically you can rotate this, but it's kind of a radial gradient, so it doesn't really make sense. What I can do is move where this is. Let's see here. I can also change the sizing of this. Let's come up to the corner here. I can make it a little more oblong. All right. And last but not least, the texture down here. This one, I can still rotate it. Let me come down here. I can rotate this. I can also scale this, coming up to the corner, and still move, I quit that, where this should be. If it will let me, thank you. There you go. All right. So if you look in the palette for this, let's go to bird. There's the body, there's the eyes, there is the wall front, so there's the actual texture there. So you can bring in, you can literally import textures and stuff like that, whether it's a pattern or an actual texture, like let's say concrete or burlap or something weird. The drawing guides. If you're a fan of perspective, yay. If you're not, maybe still yay, because this will help. What drawing guides are? One, I'm going to come over here to my tool properties. I want to add an extra little window here. You can customize your workspace, so I can come over here and click this little plus sign. And if you notice, there's all these extra things. I want to add in guides. And for me, again, I'm just using the little area where there's tool properties in the library. I'm clicking the plus sign and adding in guides. By default, I think you have like one little thing here. If I click on the 2-point perspective, let's go to my pencil tool. Since I go to one of the drawing tools, I can actually see those guides showing up. If I want to hide them, it's this little triangle tool up here. I can turn them on and off. And the thing is, how do the guides work? I can come over here. You can see 2-point perspective. I can move where these points are. And the way that this works, see if I can do this right. I'm always trying to set this up so it actually lines up with the original one. The way this works is if I start drawing a line here, it's kind of doing a guide along with me. Can make another building here. So this is me using my mouse, by the way. And how is it staying so straight? Because I am using these little guides. Now it looks a little weird because I've not set these guides up perfectly, but that is weird. What I do want to share with you is put some little windows on here, I think. Why are you a little bit off? You also have several things like isometric perspective. My favorite one that I've yet to learn, but it's still kind of cool. 5-point perspective is like a fisheye lens. So if I'm just drawing little lines here, But yeah, once you get them into where you want them to be, yeah, go ahead and lock those in place. I know my buddy Mark, who does a lot of storyboarding, what he typically does is he will rough out the perspective that he wants. This is doing a rough sketch of everything, and then use the guides to do his actual cleanup work. Our stamp tool. The way this works, it's a play off of several things. One, you can use your drawing subs to set this up. And to do this, what I want to do is I'm going to need an extra drawing layer here. So for instance, I can come over to my timeline. I can either click the plus sign and add a drawing. I can also do Command R or Control R on PC. Or I can just click the little drawing icon here, add a drawing layer. And I'm just going to call this one something like flowers, or technically flora. I'm being difficult because I think I already have a couple of brushes called flower. So if I call this flora, I don't know, 01. And I'll do add and close. So basically what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to cut these flowers from that stamp tool layer, and I'm going to paste them on a different layer, but I want to break them off into different frames. Like this little guy is going to be frame 1, the little purple tulip is going to be frame 2, carnation, whatever. It's going to be frame 3, and that pointy one, it's going to be frame 4. Okay? Meaning I can select this layer, and I have my selection tool. So I'll grab all 4 of these. I'm going to cut them, Command X. And to keep myself a little more sane, let me think, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Looks like I'm on the sloth tool, yeah, a little close gap, but I'm just on a different layer. And I can even turn off that draw here layer. Technically, I can turn off the other one as well. But I'm still on this top one. What I'm basically doing, and Toon Boom is really good with respect to this. If you cut something off of one layer and paste it on another layer, it's going to paste it in the exact same place. You don't have to do a paste in place or anything like that. So basically, I copied or cut, excuse me, those flowers from one layer, and I just turned off the visibility of my other layers here. And I'm just going to go ahead and paste. Doesn't really matter where they are. And if you look at my timeline, it's just got that one little block there of all 4 of those flowers. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What I'm going to do now is grab these 3 and cut these and go to the very next frame, which of course has nothing in it. So this is similar to when we first did the little dots, like every frame is like a new drawing. I'm going to go ahead and paste, Command V, Control V on PC, but I at least need to see what the heck happened in the frame before. So I can turn on my onion skin option. If you look at down here, little slices of onion. So I can see the previous frame. And the only thing I'm trying to do is line this dude up. So the idea is I'm going to end up having all 4 of these lined up the same way. So when I'm using my stamp tool, it will start following exactly where my brush is. So now I'll grab these last 2, cut those, go to the next frame, and paste. And I'll slide this dude over. Thank you, sir. And last but not least, our pointed one, go here and slide this over. Now, if you look on the timeline, I have 4 little those little vertical lines there, breaking up those frames. And anytime you see those vertical lines, it lets you know that is a drawing substitution. Okay. So here's the deal. I have all of those. I can select, I'm just clicking on one, hold on my shift key, select all 4 frames. If I go to my stamp tool, got my properties, there's a whole lot of different stamp tools, but what I can do is, if you remember, I was talking to you earlier about setting up your own brushes, and if you set up a pencil size that you like. Same thing with the stamp tool. If I click this plus, I said stamp 1, okay. I guess I do get to call it my own thing. Let's go Flora 01. And if I click OK, what you'll notice is there are my flowers. Now, the boring thing is, I'm just dragging this. I'm just clicking and dragging, and it's putting my flowers in there, which is cool. But what if I wanted something to have a little more variety? So this one works kind of that same way of when you can edit your brushes and pencils, you have that little triangle here. If I open this up, I can say the maximum scale, the minimum scale. Minimum scale, what if I say it can be as small as 29? So if you look up top, it's starting to vary. And what if I said, come down to the bottom, I can do random size or random angle. And for the cycle, if you look, it's still repeating. It goes, what is that? Daisy, tulip, carnation, poinsettia, something. Forward, reverse. How about random? Random works a little better. So what I've basically done is said, yes, this is the stamp, but can you give these to me random, random size, random rotation? And I can either save this as a new brush, or this little green guy here says update the current one. So as soon as I do that, okay, cool, just updated it. And let's see if I can do this. This is with my mouse, so looks about the same size. It's doing random though. Let me get rid of that. Let me try this with my stylus. What happens then? So I can kind of go really soft, pressure sensitive. Not terrible. So I'm doing all these really soft right now. Add a little more pressure. There we go. So all of that is to say, let's turn our other layers back on. I can get rid of the old one. Let's see. So this last little guy here, wait it, turn off my onion skin, thank you. I can basically come here and go, let's put some flowers in the background. Let's put some on this layer, a little bit heavier. There we go. There are a lot of other things here. Some people have done like, what is that? Like sticky people, there's size comparisons, there's hearts, snowflakes, hey, that's cool. I've taught this a lot of times, if you notice. Let me get rid of some of those. Click minus, by the way, is what I'm doing. Go bye-bye. Want some trees in the background? Sure. The main thing is that I clicked and had those layers, excuse me, those frames selected. So for instance, let me do this really quick. Let's make one called numbers. If I were to do the following, let me grab a pencil, thank you. There we go. So let's do 1. I'm going to go to the next frame. I'll do it 2. Next frame, 3. Next frame, 4. I don't have my onion skin on, but I think I did that pretty good. Hold on. Yeah, pretty good. So what I'm basically doing is selecting one frame. Hold on my shift key, select the other one. Now, I'm on my pencil tool right now. However, if I'm trying to make a stamp, I will go to the stamp tool and come up here and say, can you give me a new brush? Now the new brush is going to be according to what I have selected here. So the new brush, I'm going to call this one numbers. I'm going to click OK. So if you look, now this is my brush. So I'm just dragging it.